Yes, it's 6:20 and I need some wine.
Are those the wine windows?
Florence, Italy has some strange doors or windows all around its city center. If you have a keen eye when you're here in the land of gelato and Michelangelo, you'll spot them. And if you're lucky, they'll open up and serve you a glass of some of Tuscany's finest wine. Today, we're on the hunt for some of these mysterious portals into the Renaissance past, uncover their backstory, and hopefully drink a little bit of Chianti along the way. Let's go get some wine.
Hi there.
Hi, un rosso, un bianco.
Rosso e bianco. Molto bene.
Now stick with me, I'll explain why these wine windows exist and
Buon rosso.
where you can find them when you're here in Florence. Talk about a hole-in-the-wall experience. There's nothing cooler than having a glass of wine here in the middle of the street in Florence, reflecting on your day and making plans for the dinner ahead. Florence is unique for many reasons. Cradle of the Renaissance, birthplace of gelato, and these mysterious wine windows. Nowhere else in the world can you get a glass of wine from a hole in the wall, no bigger than a football, stand among the Renaissance palaces and drink. Even in Florence, the walls have good taste. So intrigued by these wine windows, when I first moved here, I would snap photos when I was out and about on my bicycle or walking through these city streets. And I saved all the photos, and a couple of them I printed out, hung above my couch in my office. I suggest to you, when you're here roaming the streets of Florence, see how many little wine windows you can count, and then try knocking on a few. See if they open up and serve you a glass of wine. Grazie, ciao. Here's one here. I'm telling you, they're all around Florence. Some windows serve up wine, others just serve up disappointment. And another one here. There are around about 200 or so wine windows. The majority of them are in the center of Florence. Some are scattered about in the rolling countryside. Only a handful of the windows open and they serve wine. Some, they say, even serve gelato. But be warned, there are a few fakes out there, and I'll explain that later. This isn't a bar, this isn't a restaurant. It's a literal hole in the wall that serves wine. You gotta love Florence. Ciao! Un bicchiere di San Felice e poi...
Palazzuolo.
Palazzuolo. This is a literal hole in the wall that serves wine. I love Florence. Grazie. I'll get to that warning later that I'm telling you about, that you gotta be careful when you're here visiting Florence. But first, let's talk about why these wine windows exist. The wine windows go back to the 1500s. Back then, the Medici dynasty, they allowed the wealthy land-owning families that lived in these palaces to serve wine or to sell some of their wine from their vineyards in the nearby hills. So these wine windows started popping up in all the palace walls. 20 centimeters by 30 centimeters, nothing wider, just big enough to pass a wine jug through. And the kicker is on that is that they didn't have to pay for the taxes on the wine that they would sell through the wine windows. Tax evasion never tasted so good. Ah, è vostro.
Sì, io fantapiede.
Queste sono buchette del vino.
Buchette del vino.
Buchette. How do you say in Florence? Buchette.
Buchette, con la sci aspirata.
Buchette del vino. These buchette del vino, the buchette del vino, really the little holes in the wall, they remained until the 1900s, but over time a lot of them that got covered up when the palaces were redone and families stopped selling the wine through the holes in the wall. But some businesses, entrepreneurial thinking, they started to open up the little wine windows again, and there's a handful of them around the city, and I'll explain later how you can find them. We've seen also in 2020 and 2021, they were great for the rules of social distancing because you wouldn't get too close to the person that would be serving you your glass of wine. It's a little slice of Florence history that I find intriguing, and through time, we still have these windows that are all around Florence. It's like a drive-through window, but for pedestrians and serving Tuscan wine. Do you know this is a wine window, right?
Yes.
And you've already had a few different glasses from other places?
Just one other place.
How do you know about these wine windows?
Google.
And are you having wine too? Oh, come on. This really is cool, and a portal back in time, back to the times of the Renaissance when Florence had the Medici family. And the owner was just explaining inside, sweet guy. I've always ridden my bike past here in the years, and only recently had I started to take note that this place has a wine window. Well, in fact, he said during the time of 2021 or so, they opened it up because before it was covered up here on the outside, but they knew inside they had a wine window. And yeah, how cool is this? The oval shape, I don't know if you can see this here, but you have the oval shaped wine window, and only the official wine windows get this plaque that you see underneath the wine window. Buchette del vino, wine window. We are on the hunt for more wine windows, and in fact, some of them have been made into windows. I've seen some of these palaces put glass on the front of them. Some have turned them into mail slots as well. There's even one I've seen online where they've turned it into a little cat door to let their feline friend go in and out of the palace. There are many different ideas you can do with the wine windows, but the best, of course, is to serve wine out of them. Nice to meet you.
Hey, how you doing?
What are you doing?
We're here on our honeymoon.
Oh yeah, congratulations.
Yeah.
Wait, and
My wife, Kathy.
Hi, nice to meet you.
We just saw your video. We're on our way to Piazza Michelangelo because of your recommendation.
Go, because the sun sets like now.
What's the easiest way for us to get over there right now?
Beeline it down here and follow people with takeaway pizza boxes because they're going up there. But you need to walk fast. It's always great to bump into subscribers. If you haven't yet subscribed, and a lot of you aren't yet, hit that subscribe button down below. Thank you. We're on the hunt now for what I think is one of the coolest looking wine windows in all of Florence. I've passed it many times, but I'm having to pull out the old Google Maps to find this one. This is it right here. This is what I think is the coolest wine window in all of Florence. Buchette dei vini, the wine windows, and it doesn't have to serve wine. I don't think this one does serve wine, but that doesn't matter. For me, when I'm traveling the world and seeing new places, new cities like this one, it's cool just to explore what they have to offer and the little bits and bobs that makes that city particular. And for me, it's the wine windows of Florence, a portal back to the past, back to the time of the Renaissance, the Medici family, and why not get a selfie here with this one here, because for me, it's the best in all of Florence. Buonasera. Come va? Remember I said I'd explain how to find these? Well, we'll get to that. Un bicchiere di rosso,
Sì.
quale hai?
Abbiamo solo un tipo, è come un Chianti, è Sangiovese e Merlot.
Un Sangiovese.
Sì, esatto.
Per mio mijo? What do you?
Excuse me?
Oh yeah, a plastica, God. Grande. Remember I said I'd tell you how to find these wine windows? Well, I'll get to that. It's like a scavenger hunt. You go around the city, and when you find them, everyone wins a glass of wine. There are about 20 or 30 of the 200 in total that are serving out of the windows. There are not many. So when you find them, you've won. You've won a glass of wine, or in this case, a little plastic cup of wine. The ones we visited here tonight, I'll link down in the description below, and I'll explain how you can find those wine windows with Google Map links. It's important to remember, some of them serve wine, but they also serve gelato. And another thing you should consider is that some of them are fakes. Yeah, unfortunately, around the world, I've seen them in Florida, I've seen them in Thailand, they put up wine windows, which is great. It's promoting a piece of history. But here in Florence, there's been some businesses that added wine windows to their building, but they're not true, authentic wine windows. Don't worry, most of the ones you find here in Florence are the real wine windows. The wine windows are just one part of Florence. With this Duomo, Statue of David, and Old Bridge, it can be a lot to take in, but I explained it all in another video. Watch it here.